He was there to stop the crime,
Finch, it's happening now.
not knowing the government is just after him for one specific reason on that day.
You can keep me waiting, Stills. We don't have time for this.
Welcome back to Warner Series. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me.
Wait!
There's this scruffy-looking guy, clearly homeless, sitting quietly on a subway train, minding his own business. He's not bothering anyone, just trying to get through the day. But peace never lasts long in places like this. A bunch of loud, obnoxious teenagers swagger into the train car, clearly out to stir up trouble. They bump into a couple of other riders on purpose, trying to act like they run the place.
Is your real gun?
One of the passengers isn't having it though, and flashes a gun to scare them off. But the main punk, who goes by Anton, isn't intimidated in the slightest. He smirks and keeps pushing. Eventually, the guy with the gun and his buddy decide it's not worth it and walk off, leaving Anton to brag to his crew about how they'll be moving some illegal weapons soon. Then Anton notices the homeless man, sitting silently with a bottle in hand. For whatever reason, he decides to mess with him next, maybe thinking it'll be an easy win. He goes for the bottle, reaching to snatch it, but the homeless man isn't having it. He grabs Anton's wrist tight. Turns out this guy isn't just some down-and-out drunk. His name is John Reese, and he used to be a serious operative with combat experience. Not someone you want to mess with. Anton tries to yank his arm away, but John's grip is like steel. He eventually lets go, but Anton keeps running his mouth, cracking jokes about John not bringing enough booze for the whole gang. The rest of the group starts circling him, laughing like it's all fun and games. Big mistake. John suddenly springs into action. Before they know what's happening, he's dismantling them one by one. Snapping wrists, kneeing them where it really hurts, jabbing them in the throat, just enough to leave them choking but conscious. It's over fast, and all 5 punks are left groaning on the ground. Next thing you know, they're all hauled off to the police station. Officer Joss Carter reviews the footage and is more impressed than anything else. When she steps into the room where John is being held, she jokes that he should have roughed them up even more. John just sits there quietly, not giving anything away. Carter, being sharp, decides to try a subtle trick. She hands him a fresh cup of water, but makes sure to touch it only on the inside,
Help adjusting.
so she can collect his fingerprints. Then she leaves the room and hands the cup off to the lab guys. When the prints come back, the results are wild. John's got a file that stretches across borders. He's linked to multiple serious crimes
Your guys' prints were found at half a dozen crime scenes over the years.
and is wanted in at least 4 different countries. It's clear he's no ordinary man. Carter's intrigued and wants answers, but before she can get more out of him, a mysterious lawyer shows up and bails him out.
I'm here for my client.
The lawyer doesn't say much, just takes John straight to his employer, a man named Harold Finch. This Finch guy seems to have wealth, resources, and a spooky amount of knowledge about John's past. He knows about the missions, the operations, and even the emotional wounds John carries. Finch tells him that he knows John's been trying to drink himself into oblivion.
Don't owe me anything, Mr. Reese. I think you and I can help one another.
But instead of pity, Finch offers him something else, a reason to get up in the morning. He says he has a job for John, something that actually matters. They drive to the heart of New York City. Finch starts talking about how someone gets murdered in the city every 18 hours.
Someone is murdered in New York City every 18 hours.
But what if they could prevent one before it even happens? Turns out Finch has access to a list of people connected to upcoming crimes. Only problem is the list doesn't say who's the criminal and who's the victim. Finch asks John to check out a woman named Diane Hansen, whose number came up. John's skeptical. He figures Finch is just some rich weirdo stalking an ex-girlfriend. So he walks off. Finch's bodyguards try to stop him, but John shuts that down in a few quick moves. Later, John changes his appearance, shaves, cleans up, looks more presentable. That night, while John's resting in a hotel room, Finch plays a recording from a murder that happened years ago in the very next room.
1:37 a.m.
He throws in a personal jab too, saying John was too late to save Jessica, his former girlfriend. That hits a nerve. Even though it hurts, something in Finch's words makes John pause. Maybe there's still a way for him to do some good. So he agrees to give Finch's plan a shot. Finch takes him to a secret office, a kind of surveillance hub. He explains that the government hired him after September 11th to build a massive machine that analyzes data from cameras, phones, and all kinds of digital sources to spot potential threats.
Just like when you were with the agency. Numbers, what you need to know is that the next number that's up is hers.
The machine spits out 2 lists, one for terrorism and another for regular crimes. The government ignores the second one, but Finch found a way to access it. Only catch, all they get is a social security number.
Or not.
Hi, Mom. I'm sorry.
No names, no background, nothing. So it's up to John to do the detective work. They start digging into Hansen. Turns out she's a lawyer. John narrows the list of people who might have it out for her down to 2. Her old flame, Wheeler, who still works with her, and a gangster named Pope, who Hansen helped send to prison. John tailgates Hansen and listens in through her phone.
Maybe targeting her for reprisal.
He hears her visit Pope in jail, where Pope hints that he's covering for someone. Apparently, his younger brother Michael saw a murder, and Pope is protecting him by taking the blame. The next day, Wheeler sneaks into Hansen's office to snoop on her computer.
He can ID the real killers.
And she's stonewalling Wheeler.
Suspicious, right? John takes note. That night, a group of corrupt cops shows up to snatch Michael, but John is ready. He blasts their vehicle with a grenade launcher and rescues the kid. He also swipes their IDs, revealing that they're dirty cops. John starts trailing these crooked officers and finds out that one of them, Detective Fusco, is helping cover up murders and framing innocent people.
I think we're up against a group of corrupt cops.
John confronts Finch again, asking more about this machine. Finch admits he built it with good intentions, but now only he is trying to use it to save lives. John isn't sure what to think, but keeps pushing forward. He thinks Hansen is in danger, but it turns out she's actually working with the dirty cops. She even orders them to kill Wheeler for digging too deep. John's ambushed by Fusco, who's supposed to drive him out and finish him off.
You can keep me waiting, Stills. We don't have time for this. Take care of him?
But John turns the tables and escapes, heading back to stop the next setup. The dirty cops are about to frame a low-level thug for Wheeler's death, but John shows up just in time to save the guy and stop the murder. He then tricks Hansen with some edited audio recordings and gets the upper hand. In the end, he blackmails Fusco into working for him. John tells him Hill needs someone on the inside of the police department.
You ready to get to work, officer?
A few days later, John's riding in an elevator with a man named Bill, casually chatting. He asks about the flowers Bill's carrying and says some women leave cheating husbands, but others hire hitmen to make it look like a random robbery gone bad. John then takes out the 2 men who were following Bill and tells him to get a good divorce lawyer. The machine isn't done, though. It spits out a new number, this time belonging to a girl named Teresa. But here's the twist. Teresa is supposedly dead. Her dad was a real estate developer who lost everything and allegedly killed his whole family before turning the gun on himself.
She was murdered, along with the rest of her family.
Finch brings John to the cemetery and points to Teresa's grave, but says the machine only gives numbers of people who are still alive. So if her number came up, she must have survived. John asks Fusco to grab the case file. He's got no choice but to help. After reading it, John says this wasn't some family tragedy. It was a hit made to look that way. John knows because, well, that's how he would have done it. Finch digs into it using his tech and locates Teresa. John tracks her, but she figures out she's being followed and gets away before he can reach her.
Wait!
Later, John visits Finch at his office, which turns out to be a fake job where Finch hides in plain sight. John hands over a device Teresa dropped, a small gadget used to steal card info from ATMs. Apparently, Teresa's been living off the grid, swiping credit card data to survive. But now that someone knows she's alive, she's in real danger.
This was a hit for hire.
After digging around the neighborhood and asking some shady folks, Reese finally gets a lead about who was behind the hit on Teresa's family. Turns out the guy responsible goes by the nickname Solnick. But Solnick isn't out there on the streets anymore. He's locked up, caught during a completely different mess.
The guy behind the bar's a fixer, takes a piece of most contract killings in the city.
So Reese heads to the prison to pay him a visit, hoping to get some answers. When they meet, Reese gets right to the point. Why didn't you go through with killing the girl? Solnick doesn't dodge the question. He just shrugs and says, I got rules. I don't kill kids. I only scared her a little. Told her that if she opened her mouth about me, I'd have to come back and finish it. Reese keeps pressing, trying to figure out who gave Solnick the job in the first place. But Solnick swears he doesn't know. He says he met the guy only once, got paid in cash, and no names were exchanged. While all that's going on, Teresa's trying to make some fast cash by selling secret banking info online. Finch catches wind of her online activity and tracks her location. Reese catches up to her, but just when he does, another hitman shows up, someone sent to take her out. Reese jumps in, saves her, and takes her to a hotel to lie low. Later that night, Teresa opens up a bit. She tells Reese her dad always suspected her Uncle Derek had something to do with what happened to him. Curious, Reese finds Derek and starts putting pieces together. Turns out, Derek was in on a deal with two big-time contractors. Together, they planned to hit on Teresa's dad because if he died, the land he owned would go straight to Derek. That land? It had skyrocketed in value, now worth about 40 times what it used to be. But now, there's a problem. With Teresa still alive, she's next in line to inherit the property, and those same people are trying to get rid of her too before anyone legally finds out she's alive. Reese doesn't waste any time. He tracks down one of the contractors involved and rams his car with a massive truck to get his attention. When he confronts the guy and tells him to call off the hit, the man just coldly says it's already in motion. Meanwhile, back at the hotel, the assassin is still hunting Teresa. Harold does his best to sneak her out through the fire escape, but the killer spots them and pulls a gun. Just in the nick of time, Reese shows up again and takes him out before anyone gets hurt. The next day, Reese reaches out to Agent Carter and tells her it's time they finally meet. Carter shows up with backup, expecting to catch something big. But when she arrives, all she finds is Teresa. She brings the girl to the police station to reunite her with her aunt. Carter tries to question her about what she remembers, but Teresa acts like she's blocked it all out due to the trauma. She says she barely recalls the man who helped her. Later on, Reese visits Finch again, but the office is empty. Finch has moved. When Reese calls him, Finch answers and tells him not to call again unless it's urgent. He's a private guy and prefers to be the one to reach out when needed. Not long after, the machine gives them another number. This time, it belongs to a guy named Joey, a war vet with a chest full of medals. Reese starts tailing him and finds out Joey now works as a hotel valet, opening car doors and parking luxury rides for guests. One day, Joey sends a strange message, then ditches work. Reese follows him and watches as Joey and a masked partner walk into a bank, and boom, it's a robbery. Reese can't act without blowing his cover, and when a security guard tries to grab his weapon, Reese stops him, knowing it'll only get him killed. After that robbery, Finch thinks they should just report Joey and let the cops handle it before things spiral further. But Reese wants to understand why a good soldier like Joey would end up doing something like this. So, he digs deeper and discovers Joey is tied to a network of other ex-military guys who've turned a heist to survive. Reese manages to dig up some intel and tracks down a former sergeant named Sam who runs a local bar. Reese poses as someone looking for work, saying a dead Marine buddy once mentioned Sam. Sam seems to buy the story. Finch, working behind the scenes, gets their getaway driver arrested to make room for Reese to slide into the crew. After Reese gets accepted into the group, he has his first meet-up with Joey and the rest. Meanwhile, Carter is reviewing the security footage from the bank and notices a man, Reese, stopping the guard from making a deadly move. Later on, Reese tells Finch that Joey doesn't seem like a killer. He says Joey might be part of robberies, but that's a long way from killing innocents. War changes people, sure, but not everyone comes home a murderer. To blend in better, Reese casually bumps into Joey and starts chatting him up, asking about upcoming gigs. Joey says that all depends on Sam. He's the one who decides. The two of them slowly build a friendship after they get into a scuffle with a couple of bankers. Reese starts asking more personal stuff, like if Joey has any kids. He already knows Joey is seeing two different women. Joey brushes it off, just saying he's got responsibilities. Reese keeps his cool and doesn't push too hard. Eventually, the gang calls Reese in for another job. Meanwhile, the police ID one of the crew members. Their next heist is an illegal underground casino run by the mob. They hit the place and vanish just before the cops arrive. Sam starts planning one more big score, and Finch believes it's time to shut it all down. Reese asks for a bit more time. He's learned that one of the women Joey visits is his girlfriend, but the other is the wife of his friend from the military. That friend has a little daughter, and Joey's been stealing to help support her future. Her mom just had a baby too. For their next job, The crew's target is a stash of files related to someone named Elias. Reese joins them on the mission, but Finch finds out Sam is planning a double cross. He's going to kill the team and take everything for himself. Reese gets there in time to save Joey, but the others aren't so lucky. Sam later hands off the case files to some mystery figure. When Reese tracks Sam down, it's too late. He's already dead. After everything that's happened, Finch decides to stop by the doctor. He's been having some back pain, so he uses it as an excuse. But really, he's there for a different reason. He wants to swipe Dr. Tilman's hospital radio. She's the latest number from the machine, and they need to figure out what trouble she might be in. Reese starts keeping tabs on her and notices she lives a pretty isolated life. Just work, no social life. One night, she heads out to a bar, and some guy starts creeping on her. Reese scares him off, but spots another man, Andrew, who had bumped into her earlier that day. Reese decides to bump into Andrew himself and finds drugs in his pocket. From the bartender, Reese learns that Dr. Tilman comes to the club every night, always alone. Looks like Andrew might be taking notice. The next day, Reese breaks into Andrew's place and pulls files from his computer. He and Finch go through the contents and discover the guy is a predator who's been grooming women online. He's even got a criminal record from his college days, but it's been wiped clean. Carter, meanwhile, is reviewing security footage from the case files heist and notices a brief exchange between Reese and Finch. She grows more suspicious. Back at the bar, Reese watches as Andrew chats up Dr. Tilman again. They flirt for a minute and then leave. Andrew tries to invite her back to his place, but she declines. Then, she secretly follows him and watches him with a zoomed-in camera lens. Reese calls Finch to report that something strange is going on. Turns out, Tilman isn't the one being stalked. She's the one doing the stalking. Reese meets with Detective Fusco and asks him to dig up Andrew's deleted record. Once he reads it, everything clicks. Back in college, Andrew was accused of sexually assaulting a young woman. The case fell apart because the victim waited 2 days to report it. Tragically, she later overdosed. That victim? She was Dr. Tilman's sister. Now it all makes sense. Tilman doesn't want justice. She wants revenge. That's why the machine flagged her, because she's about to become the threat. Later, Carter visits Finch and asks him what one of the robbers told him. Finch lies, saying the guy just told him not to stare. Reese finds out Tilman has bought chemicals strong enough to dissolve a body. Her plan is deadly serious. To stop her, Reese decides to frame Andrew. He rigs the guy's car with drugs and causes a fake accident. Andrew gets arrested but walks out the next day, thanks to his fancy lawyers. That same night, Dr. Tilman sneaks into Andrew's apartment. She tasers him, drugs him, and wheels him out in a chair to her van. Just when things were about to get out of hand, John stepped in. He stopped Tilman and calmly told her to sit down beside him. He already knew who she had stashed in the back of her van. Andrew, tied up and helpless. He gently tried to talk her out of doing something she'd regret. Killing Andrew wouldn't just end his life. It'd destroy a piece of herself, too. John reminded her she wasn't some cold-blooded killer. She was someone who helped people, someone who still had good in her. Meanwhile, John decided to take Andrew somewhere quiet and away from everything. The two of them started having a pretty intense chat. John was struggling with a choice. Should he let Andrew live, thinking maybe people can change? Or should he just end it, assuming people never change at all? He was torn, unsure if the world still had genuinely good people in it or if all we can hope for are just decent decisions. John even questioned which path he'd regret more, giving Andrew another chance or ending things right there. Finally, he turned to Andrew and asked him to help him figure it out. That's when the screen cut to black. A few days later, the machine dished out a fresh social security number. This time, it was tied to a man named Samuel Gates. The guy was a judge working at the Supreme Court. Word on the street was he was a no-nonsense type, super fair, and tough as nails. With a guy like that, it wouldn't be shocking if he'd made some enemies. John started trailing the judge around, keeping an eye on him. He noticed some shady-looking guys lurking nearby, and it looked like one of them was about to make a move. John braced himself, thinking he'd have to throw hands. But instead of pulling a weapon, the guy just yanked out his phone, sent a text, and chucked the phone in a dumpster. That threw John off. He grabbed the phone, read the message, and realized they weren't after the judge at all. They were after Samuel's kid. John figured it out quick. "We've been watching the wrong Gates," he said. Right around that time, some thugs actually managed to kidnap the judge's son. John jumped into action, trying to stop them. He fought hard, but one of them pulled out a gun and shot him. John went down, unconscious. The kidnappers got away with the kid. Not long after, the judge got a chilling phone call. The voice on the other end told him they had his son and warned him not to tell anyone. Just wait for the next call. The judge was completely shattered by the news. John, injured but still kicking, showed up to help. The judge asked who he was, but John just said, "I'm someone trying to help." They went back to Samuel's house, trying to figure out how the bad guys had bypassed all the security. John suspected the nanny. He left to check her place, talking to Finch along the way. Finch was busy trying to trace the kidnapper's call by hacking the phone company, but no luck yet. Meanwhile, John found the nanny dead. Looked like the gang got the alarm code from her. They'd killed her to gain access. Later, with Finch's help, John tracked down one of the guys he'd seen earlier. After roughing him up a bit, the guy passed out. John opened his shirt and spotted a tattoo, SP9. That was a gang from Eastern Europe. Either they had moved into New York or started a branch there. That night, the kidnappers rang the judge again. But they didn't ask for money. They wanted something else. They told the judge to throw out a case involving a woman named Angela. If she walked free, they'd return his son. If not, well, you can guess. The judge explained that her case wasn't complicated. She'd hit someone with her car and just drove away. Finch did some digging and found that SP9 was bigger than they thought. They had operations in 18 countries now. The next day, during Angela's court hearing, Samuel tried to delay his decision, buying as much time as he could. The gang boss called and told him to cut it out, but Samuel insisted on doing things the right way. Meanwhile, John had gotten more out of the thug he interrogated. He tracked down a location where the gang handed out payments. He went there, fought off 2 guards, and found $500,000. At the same time, Finch listened in on a call between Angela and the gang leader. He pieced it together. Angela worked at a bank developing anti-money laundering software. She had access to shut the system down for a few minutes. And during that brief window, the gang moved money without getting flagged. She was in on it. The next day, Finch went undercover at the bank and grabbed some data. While all this was happening, John kept hunting for the judge's son. But the kid wasn't where John thought he'd be. Without any leads, the judge was forced to let Angela go. Not guilty on all charges. As expected, the gang boss called and gave the judge a location to pick up his son. John knew this was a trap. They weren't planning to hand the kid over. When Samuel arrived, the thugs let him see his son, but the mood turned dark. Just then, John showed up with Angela in tow. He revealed everything he knew, how she disabled the bank security system each morning for a short window to let SP9 do their thing. Realizing their operation was exposed, the gang leader ordered everyone to be killed. A shootout broke out, but John and his crew came out on top. Finch handed the evidence over to a lawyer, and Angela ended up arrested along with the rest of the gang. Cops found her and the other criminals tied up, waiting to be taken in. Not long after, the machine gave them another number. This time, John had to get close to a woman named Zoe Morgan. He pretended to be a driver sent to pick her up. Zoe, being sharp, didn't buy it right away. She called to confirm with the company, but Finch answered and played along, making it all seem legit. John drove her to a spot where she paid a guy for a gun. Back at her place, Finch snooped around and found she already had a weapon. John figured the second one must be untraceable. She wasn't just buying a backup, she was planning something. Later, while John drove her to an event, she changed clothes in the back seat. He decided to follow her because something didn't feel right. At the event, she handed the gun to a police officer. Turns out, the guy had lost his gun and she helped get it back, probably saving his career. That cleared things up a bit. Zoe wasn't necessarily a criminal. She was what you call a fixer, someone who solved messy problems for powerful people. John dropped her back home, and she told him to come by again the next day. 10 sharp, she said. Finch was curious, so John explained. Zoe's line of work made her a target. Plenty of people might want her gone. At the same time, the cops found the body of a man who had been the main suspect in an old murder case. The victim in that case? A waitress named Marlene Elias. Turns out, Marlene worked in a bar owned by a Mafia boss. She had an affair with him and eventually wanted him to leave his wife. The boss didn't like that. He hired someone, this very man who just turned up dead, to kill her. The case was buried back then. Looks like someone, possibly Marlene's son, was digging it back up and tying off loose ends. Meanwhile, Zoe had her own problems. A wealthy guy named Mark Lawson, heir to a big pharmaceutical company, had used her to retrieve a recording of his affair. But then he killed the reporter who had the tape and now wanted Zoe dead. He didn't want any witnesses. John stepped in and saved her just in time. Finch, posing as a major investor, got close to Mark to dig for more info. They soon found out that the woman Mark had an affair with wasn't just any woman. She had been about to expose a major scandal. The company's new drug had a 3% death rate. 6 out of every 200 people were dying. That was a massive red flag. But the company had likely paid off officials to get the drug approved anyway. John and Zoe broke into the pharmaceutical headquarters to recover deleted files. Just as they grabbed the data, they got caught. Mark had them tied up and was ready to end them both. But Zoe had one last trick. She told him she'd emailed the report to someone she trusted. Mark wanted to negotiate now. Zoe said she'd take him to the person with the files if he let her live. Before they left, she slipped John a paper clip. He used it to break free, took out the guard, and then rescued Zoe. Together, they made the damning report public. That brought the pharmaceutical giant crashing down. Justice was finally served. As they parted ways, John told Zoe to try and stay out of trouble. She just smirked and said that wasn't really an option for someone like her. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on new content. Got thoughts or questions? Drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.